Mike's Daily Podcast.
I gotta do it. I gotta do this show. I gotta do this podcast, and I'm
Mike's Daily Podcast
at 2112. That's the Rush album I was thinking of, right? I think. I'm not so sure. Am I right? I don't know, but I can't stink at doing this podcast because it will mean 2112 is the album. Dang. Well, it had that pentagram on the front.
Mike's Daily Podcast,
which means the devil. Satan? Yes, I think
Mike's
it got people's attention
Daily
when it came out.
Podcast.
Because they were like, what is this band?
Yeah!
1976 that came out. What was I doing in 1976? Well, I was all about the bicentennial of America, 200 years old. And we were so happy, and we were with little whistles, and I was hitting my drums. And we were walking down the street because we had our little colonial outfits on. And the Freedom Train came through. Freedom Train! That's right, there was the Freedom Train. It came through where was that? We had to drive, I think, somewhere out to the San Gabriel Valley or something. By the way, I'm looking out over the Pleasanton, Livermore, Diablo Valley, and it's all smog, choked with fire and smoke. Well, not fire, but the smoke is just sitting there, and you can't see across. Just the worst breathing now. Just no air, no good air, no air. Is that a Jordan Sparks song? And that's why I do a podcast, is because I remember songs. And I'm not going to sing all of Simple Minds, because I think I turned off some of my listeners with all my singing. I don't have a wonderful voice, I know. But I do know I love some Simple Minds. Not just the band, but people with simple minds, because they're entertaining. At any rate, the San Gabriel Valley.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Looks like how the Diablo Valley, Livermore, Pleasanton Valley look. San Gabriel looks like all the time. Right now, it's just because of the fires, and someday this will blow out and will be nice, clear air. But man, San Gabriel Valley, the worst. Just, horrible air. Why did I bring it up? Because that's where the Freedom Train was. Freedom Train. Freedom Train. And 2112 Rush, it was a concept album. The band's label didn't want Rush to do another concept album. Basil didn't want them to do another concept album. He was like, what? What's this crap? I want songs. I want snappy pop songs, Rush. Give me more Tom Sawyer and less long, complete, closer to the heart, yeah! Thank you, Geddy Lee, for your wonderful album. And Neil Peart, the late, great Neil Peart, who we lost not too long ago. And Alex Lifeson. And I went to see... here's the track listing for 2112. Lessons, Something for Nothing, Tears, 2112 Overture, The Temple of... Syrinx, that's right. Oh, gosh, my friend... Discovery, Presentation, Oracle, The Dream, Soliloquy, Grand Finale. My friend Mike loves this band so much. And so I go and see Twilight Zone and Passage to Bangkok. I went to see Rush twice, and the first time was at the Forum in LA, and then the second time, and that show was okay. Primus opened. That was incredible. I'd never heard of Primus before, and then I was, whoa. And I think most of the Rush fans didn't know who Primus was, but that was a good show. Then the second time was at the Irvine Meadows Amphitheater. That's gone. That's condos now. Before it was the Irvine Meadows Amphitheater, it was Lion Country Safari, where you take your car and drive through just a bunch of land. They'd lock the gate behind you. It was basically Jurassic Park with a bunch of lions walking around thinking about eating you. That's what it was way back. So the second time I saw Rush, Irvine Meadows Amphitheater, the band Mr. Big opened for them. I'm the one who wants to be with you. Deep inside, I know you feel it too. Lay it on a line of pinks and blues. Just enough to be with you. It was like the last gasp of hair bands. And the only way hair metal bands were getting on the radio was if they did a pop song. Like your Def Leppards did Love Bites, Love Bleeds. And Guns N' Roses had Sweet Child of Mine. And everybody had, November Rain. Can't forget, that was their big power ballad. And then you had, who is their hair metal bands? Oh, come on, Mike. Bad English. Oh, there was Kicks. Skid Row. Remember yesterday, 18 and life, and all the other ones. Oh, Warrant. And I saw red, heaven isn't too far away. Okay, the last gasp of all of that was To Be With You by Mr. Big. In my mind, anyway. I don't know if that's exactly the truth, but I sat very close to the front row with my friend Mike, and the guitarist for Mr. Big threw a pick at us. I caught it. I have it somewhere. Then Rush takes... and I think Rush had him open for him because they had a song called We Love the Rush, I think. Some Rush tribute song, even though they didn't sound like Rush at all. Then Rush takes the stage, and they might have done something from 2112. I don't remember. I just remember Alex Lifeson was right in front of us, and you could see all the sweat flying off his head. And great show. All that to say, this is the episode 2112. Here at Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valleyton, the last place on earth. Want to say hi out to Kevin. He's been listening to a couple shows. Mike's Daily Podcast. Also out to Nate and to Ken. And now I feel like this is Romper Room. I'm looking through the little mirror thing at the camera. And I see you, Kevin. And I see you, Chandra. And I see you, Penelope. Well, what was I going to get to on today's show? The show's almost over, just letting you know. So you got this far. You might as well sit through the rest. It's that close. You can smell it. Psych. No, I wasn't just saying something and then meaning something else and going, psych. No, I was saying that the TV show Psych, as we go outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valleyton, the last place on earth. I've been watching all the episodes lately with my lovely lady friend. And we took a break from watching it for a little bit and went on to YouTube and looked up Psych, and all these panels come up where they talked in front of fans. And they're so fun. It's so fun to watch them interact with their fans. And in fact, they're still doing the show. They're making these one-off movies. And I think I talked a little bit about Timothy Omundson, who was on the show. He played Carlton Lassiter on the show. The actor Timothy Omundson actually had a stroke about 5 years ago, I think. Check this out to show you how. And then all about Black Panther. The actor that plays him passed away. That was a shock, wasn't it? I mean, what happened? And he's so young, and it was colon cancer. And as shocking as that is, Chadwick Boseman at 43 passing away. There was a guy I knew named Matt Cooper who died of a similar circumstance, and he was younger than me, and he died in his 40s as well after battling, I think it was colon cancer, for his whole life, basically. But he got me really into podcasting. He had a great podcast called Pod Zeppelin, and we would discuss different ways of getting the podcast out there, getting people to know about it. Just a brilliant guy. I learned a lot about sound editing and working with multi-tracks from him. He was doing it all before I was, even though I was older than him. And he goes, sit down, old man. Let me show you how to do all this stuff. And we were using, what was that called? Saw. Not the awful movie franchise that you may or may not love because you like that kind of gore. But no, it was called Saw, and I think it was something Windows had made. It was an early version of sound editing, and it was tough as heck to work with. You had to be super patient. And Matt Cooper was just a genius with it. Anyway, back to Chadwick Boseman. That was shocking. And he got a lot of... Well, Chris Evans wrote a really nice social media eulogy to him, as well as all the other people that starred with him in the Avengers movies. So, yes, but we will... at some point, remember what I was getting. Oh, Timothy Omundson. So Timothy is still with us. He was standing in the Miami airport, and he was in the bathroom, and all of a sudden he felt like his left arm hurt, and then like his left leg went dead, and he fell down. And he got up again, and then fell down again, and this time he wakes up and the paramedics are taking him to the hospital, and luckily, at that point he had suffered a stroke. But what's amazing was he was in that city in Miami was one of the best stroke victim doctors. He could work. He was really good with helping people recover from strokes and to save them. He basically, his brain was hemorrhaging really bad, and they had to open up his skull, and yeah, he still got a scar from that. This guy from Psych, this all happened to him, the guy who played Lassiter, and he talks about it in a fantastic interview with Larry King, who, by the way, Larry King has had a stroke himself, and so they were talking back and forth about the whole thing having to do with strokes and why does that happen, and recovering from those. And so find that on YouTube. But the guy, Timothy Omundson, it's amazing. So he can't really talk. He has to talk in short bursts now. And he said he's lost the ability to memorize. He used to be able to memorize lines really quickly. Being an actor, that's important. That's why I could never be an actor. I have bad time memorizing things. I can talk to you on a podcast for 15 minutes, but to just memorize lines and then spit them out, it's very difficult. At any rate, all that to say, we're loving Psych, and we're watching it, and we were learning a lot about all the interesting people behind that show, that comedy, about a guy faking that he's psychic and he works for the police department in Santa Barbara, which is another reason why I like it, because I went to school in Santa Barbara, went to UCSB there, and they reference a bunch of stuff in Santa Barbara. Plus, the lead guy reminds me of someone that I knew back in Santa Barbara, Ventura area. And so it's sort of like I know those people. But Mr. Timothy Omundson was, and I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm realizing now about halfway through the podcast that I probably have butchered his name. Yeah, Omundson. Like, that's a Viking, isn't it? Raoul Omundson? No, he was the guy that went to the North Pole or the South Pole. One of those dudes. Timothy just saying that, he goes, okay, so check this out. This is all I'm leading up to this point. And that was an amazing question. Larry asked him, Timothy, how on earth have you gotten through therapy every single day, this neurological therapy to get you to be able to even talk to me right now? To even be able to still act. He acted in the last Psych movie, which came out this year, which, by the way, I watched the night before my dog Basil the Boxer passed away. And I remember watching it going, oh, this is so... It was really sad, because there's this one part where Lassiter, he's in a wheelchair, and they wrote it in a way to mirror what actually had happened to Timothy. His character is mirroring what happened in his life, and he's just gone through therapy, and he's about to get up, and he's seeing his wife, and he's going to get out of the wheelchair and walk up over to his wife and hug her. in the show. And the actress that plays his wife in the show is the one that was his wife in earlier episodes. I can't think of her name. But she was in jail for a while, and Lassiter waits for her until she comes back. At any rate, he hugs her. It's a really touching scene, and Corbin Burnson from Law and Order is in the scene, kind of helping him, and you can tell all the cast members are kind of tearing up. So I remember watching that, and then the next morning, my dog passes away. It's a terrible day, horrible weekend, horrible month. Just mourning my dog. People were really supportive and kind, and I really appreciate that. My lovely lady friend was amazing through it all. But then, as Timothy Omundson is telling Larry King about how he got through all of this, he says, my great-grandfather, who I never met, he said he was a coal miner, and he was, just tough as, what a career that is, going underground. You cheat death every day, basically. Their lungs, black lung and all that, and Zoolander, yes. But Timothy Omundson said I could just hear my great-grandfather, who I have never met, saying to me, come on, Timothy, you can do this. I've been through way worse than you have. You can do it. And he imagined what his relatives, and you think about people today that complain about the smallest things, what the generations ahead of us went through. It makes you go, let's put this all in perspective. And the other thing Timothy said was that his next door neighbor came over to his house one day and said, hey, do you know a good neurological doctor? And Timothy's like, yeah, sure. Why do you need that? He goes, I think I might be getting multiple sclerosis. And Timothy's like, okay. So the guy went to the doctor, and then the next day he comes back to see Timothy, and he's got his expression, it's ghostly white. He's just freaking out. And Timothy's like, what's up? And he said, I don't have MS. I actually have ALS, which is basically a death sentence. And that's basically what my dog had, was a dog version of that, where you lose all use of everything. And it's wow, that was the connection right there from everything. It was a bizarre connection. At any rate, so all I'm saying is our lives are very fragile, and you have to enjoy them, because anything can happen. And be thankful for what you have is what I'm saying. And we're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. And there's some people here at Cafe Anyway. But first, I want to say hi out to Sylvia, too, who texted me and wished me condolences with Basil. Basil had a good life towards the end, and that's what Sylvia told me. She goes, you gave him a good life, and I did. You just enjoy what you have of life as much as you can. And the podcast picture, in fact, is of a fun moment with Basil and I. 2 years ago, this happened. My lovely lady friend and I actually took Basil on Lake Chabot on one of those paddle boats. And the whole time he looked like he wanted to get the heck off of that thing. And then we got back to the dock. I said to my lovely lady friend, she pedaled the whole time, by the way. She pedaled me and my dog. Incredible. Then I said, let me just take this for a spin. I've never, paddled on one of these things. So I just did it by myself, pedaling away. Those are hard work. They're tough to make those things move. And Basil the boxer is staring at me going, what the heck are you doing? So that's the podcast picture today. And you can see that at Mike's Daily Podcast. And I think if you listen to the show on radio.com, you can see the podcast picture as well. I think that's how it works. So see that. And I will do a quick video here for YouTube so I can make this podcast stop like a freaking freight train, like a freedom train just stopping. This is effizode 2112. And it'll only be the only time this show is ever 2112. So I hope you enjoy it and you listen to it. Of course, if you're listening to this now, you are going, Mike, well, I'm listening to this now. Why are you saying this? It makes no sense. So enjoy that part of the podcast that you just got through. And look who's outside a cafe anyway.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift store supervisor. Wow, you had a lot of stories to tell today.
I did. And I'm realizing I need to walk more because they say if you walk more, it helps with your cognitive ability. And so that all the little synapses are firing away in your brain. And I realized that my synapses need to fire off better so I can do a more cohesive, better podcast. So I think I shall walk more to help with that. Look who else is here. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, guess what a day today. And I hope you realize you can't have any barbecues going on. No, because it's spare the air. Oh, and I talk about that and other things on tomorrow's show that you can hear at the website kkdv.com. There's a link at mikesdailypodcast.com. I'll be on that particular website live from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. tomorrow. And I think most Sundays for at least the next month. So that's going to wrap up the show. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for putting up with my singing last show. And next show, we'll get to the wonderful Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, the Brewmaster. Oh, and I wanted to say about Psych 2 in that panel that we watched. Zachary Levi was in the panel. And it's funny because I met him years ago. He went to my ex-wife's high school. And at the time, I was on the radio doing my show called the Santa Fe Cafe, where some of these characters that you hear on Mike's Daily Podcast here at Cafe Anyway came from. And he was a listener back then. In fact, he told me, hey, I like your show. So there he was, Zachary Levi, super famous now and on stage. It was very interesting. Okay, that's the end of the show. Talk to you soon.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you, A-Frame. And you can tell me what you think about any of the topics that we covered at 336MM Daily. That's 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews. Daily as in what this podcast will try to continue to be. And find out more at mikesdailypodcast.com.